Welcome to today's episode of Heads or Tails. So glad you could join us. Thanks for being a part of it. Why don't you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to this leadership podcast? You're going to love today's episode with my good friend, head coach Brian Braddock. He's the head coach of St. Augustine High School. He's an epic leader in our community, has an amazing profile here in our city, and you're going to really enjoy this conversation. We talk about leadership, we talk about family, we talk about healthy culture, but also success stories and calling as well. You're going to really enjoy it. Check it out. Well, Coach Braddock, man, it is good to have you in the room on the podcast.
Thank you.
Heads or Tails, it is so good to just be chatting with you today. Thank you for coming on. Thanks for taking the day.
Love being here.
And let's kick it off. So, do you like that? That's my first sporting.
Thank you.
Let's go for kickoff. Tell us a bit about yourself, and then tell me a little bit about, because what I want to talk about today is definitely like your calling, your job, but I just love the combination of you and your wife. What she does, what you do, the way that you guys roll together is a very special thing. So tell everyone a little bit about you, what you do, and then just share a little bit about your family as well.
Sure.
That'd be cool.
I've been in public education now. This is my 19th year as a teacher and coach. Yeah. And it's hard to fathom for me, even when I was thinking about that. I'm currently the head football coach at St. Augustine High School, which is pretty much in and of itself its own full-time job. And I do have a teaching load. I teach math, which I enjoy a lot. The teaching aspect of my vocation for since the beginning has always been a really important part of it to me. It's not a just get through the day to get to football type thing.
Right.
So I really enjoy that. And then married to my wonderful wife, Jenna, who is a nutritionist, a dietitian, certified sports nutritionist. She takes that into several avenues. And she's a rock star, does a lot of media, does a lot of TV, is an amazing mom. And then we've got two beautiful little boys that they're not so little anymore. Jackson and Benjamin, they're now 11 and 9. And, we're a football family in every sense, in that it's really our calling.
Yeah.
You
kind of do it together.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think we could do it any other way.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Jenna always has the boys out at practice. They were out on Monday. It's her goal to be out there at least one day a week for practice. She knows the boys personally. Little touches. She's heavily involved. She sits at the game and she records players who do something special to her.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
She makes some cookies over the weekend, and I take them in on Monday. And
that's amazing.
She's all in, fully invested, and then her job can be very demanding too, in that it takes her away. She does contract work with Johnson & Johnson, where she'll have to go out of town. A lot of trips, a lot of PR stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're there for each other in a lot of ways. We've been really fortunate to have great family support to kind of navigate it. Both of us have really demanding schedules, and but we're both all in it together. She told me before I left the house today, she's like, "I'm your biggest fan," and I looked right back at her and I was like, "Well, I'm yours."
That's awesome.
It's been cool. We look at everything that we do as we're doing it together, and our boys know no different. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's so cool, man. I love seeing you guys do your thing, and you're a dynamic couple, which is cool. But I can relate, because like Jill and I, when it comes to ministry, we do everything together. We've always been a package deal in ministry. Even when she was just worship leading and I was in business, we still saw it as like a combined effort. So, Jenna's Job, like tell us a little bit more about that. So she's on TV a lot. She does a lot of media. I see her all the time in the morning shows in Jacksonville, which is so cool. Was that something that she sort of set out to do, or is that sort of something that you guys have sort of walked it out and it's happened?
Sure. Well, one thing, I'll answer that question directly, but I kind of have to preface it with this. One thing about Jenna that makes her a great counterbalance for me is she thinks very big. That's just not my disposition. And from the beginning, since we first got married, she always had an idea of what she wanted to do as a dietitian, how she wanted to serve people, how she wanted to make an impact, how she wanted God to use her in that world. And for me, that was kind of foreign. I was like, why don't you just go get a job, be a clinical dietitian, just get a job.
Yeah.
Go do the 8-hour day, make your paycheck.
Yeah.
And she's like, there's nothing wrong with that. And if that's where I'm led to go, I'll do that. But that's just not been in her heart. So it started out very slowly when we were younger and married. And she just set out to want to kind of be that person in this region that is looked at as maybe an authority on functional healthy behaviors, functional healthy eating.
Awesome.
And she's really kind of become that, and it's really cool. So the media kind of just came along through connections, through her doing good work.
Okay.
And now she's got several people that she works with that will utilize her. Obviously they work together, whether it be a certain supermarket, a certain reputable national brand for a certain type of health food or whatever that might be.
Yeah.
A lot of produce is involved, a lot of produce companies. So she's got a very eclectic job. She's got a very eclectic makeup to what she does, but she loves it. It's very cool. I laugh and I tell people she has a job where she works for who she wants, when she wants, for how much she wants. Awesome. I have a job where I do what I'm told for how much I'm told when I'm told.
Yeah, a true counterbalance occupational situation. I love it. That's so cool. Yeah, I think I just love, like, she set out to do that. That was her heart. And then it was like God brought along the platform, and I think that's a really good lesson for everyone. Is just like, you just do what you're called to do, go after that, set your sights on that, and just let God take care of the increase. Let God take care of the platform, the followers, the media, whatever it looks like. So that's really cool. Thanks for breaking that down. I want to talk about calling. Have you always felt called to be a football coach?
Not particularly. I think for a long time I had no idea what that would be. When I left town and went to college, it didn't take long though to know that my love for competition, sports, it did have a humongous impact on me as a teenager. Kind of all of that together with just kind of some of my innate skill sets that God has given me. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, and once I was on my own, quickly became something I thought I wanted to do. So, when I came back after college, I didn't even know that I'd want to come back to St. Augustine. It just kind of worked out that way. And it was definitely for the best. My high school football coach, Coach Wiles, had a humongous, him and many men on his staff had a large impact on me in every way imaginable. I remember when I was baptized my junior year of high school, looking out and seeing him and then two of the assistant coaches from the staff, one of them my position coach, and he lived in Jacksonville. Like, he didn't attend our church. Wow. But he was there, and I had no idea he was going to be there. Just seeing the intentionality of those coaches to pour into us, in addition to teaching us the values of hard work and all the things. Some are cliche, but they're really not, that go with excellence in a competitive realm. Really just shaped my life. And so not long after I was on my own, I kind of knew I wanted to get involved with that.
And the transition to coaching, do you think that those coaches like Coach Wiles and others really had an impact on you? Like, when was the point at which it changed from you as someone who was being coached to now, I'm called to do this now. Like, I'm actually called to be the Coach Wiles at the baptism for someone else, like, talk to me about that. Was it an inflection point, or did you just kind of start walking into it and then God revealed it to you? How did that play out?
I think it gradually happened. When I began, at a young age, I thought I knew a lot. And as we all know, that's usually when you don't know very much at all.
Yes.
So, and just this God has taught me so much since He's taught me about priority. What maybe I thought were important things for me to portray, important things for me to pursue early on in my career in education and coaching, have obviously shifted very much over those 18, 19 years, and they're still shifting today. So my hope is that I'm not the same coach 2 years from now that I am today. So it's hard to pinpoint a particular time, but just being around godly men, and I could just name coach after coach after coach that not only I played under, but then I worked beneath.
Cool.
That the way they treated me, the way they treated our players, the way that they did their job, the way that they took care of their families, the way that they loved their spouse, really shaped me. And it wasn't that long. By the time I was about 30, I knew I wanted to be a head coach. Probably knew before that. My goal was to maybe after about the time I'm 30. It's kind of like getting married. You're never really, or getting married or having children. You're probably not ready for it. You can do everything you can, but the real deal is different.
Yeah.
And so it kind of led to that. And then once you're in that situation and all the stresses of that hit you, and the realization that you got to get this going and figure this out, really takes your dependency. You feel very weak. So I would say that period of time in my early 30s felt very weak. Really had to depend on God. Had some really trying years. Our family had some really trying times that coincided with that. And just those things really shape you. And like I said, continually changing through now. So it's been an evolution, not necessarily an inflection point, but it is fun to look back and just see how God's changed my heart and my mind and how I look at my job.
Yeah. I think what you do is such a critical thing. And like, it can be said for coaches of any sport or any teams. Like, I can think I played rugby at school. Before that, I played rugby league in Australia as a 5, 6, 7-year-old. And then I played rugby union like 7 through 15. And in between there in the summers, I was a swimmer, and I can picture and I can remember all the coaches I had, and I know how much of an impact they had on me. They taught me how to, man up. They taught me how to like set goals. They taught me how to like be disciplined. They taught me so many different things. And I can really draw a direct line between so many of those things and just living my life today. Like even just achievement, think about that. You just want to achieve something. It's like, well, I learned in sport from my coaches in a team environment that you had to work at it. And you had to, if I wanted to swim at the national titles, that meant that, by this point in the year, I had to be swimming these times. And the only way to get, it's all that back solving. And I think, and what is the common denominator in all of it is obviously you kept showing up, but you always kept showing up for a coach that was there. And so I just think it's phenomenal what you do and the impact you have. So 19 years of education. How many of that 19 have you been the coach?
Or from the beginning.
Okay.
All 19.
Yeah, I thought that was, I just wanted to check. So that means you've seen a lot of kids come and go.
Yes. A whole bunch.
Like, talk to me about that. Like, how do you do that? Like, because there's got to be some kind of attachment that grows, towards these kids, and they're coming through, and, you have your success stories and you have your amazing stories. Like, how do you manage, like, leading through that, knowing that, like, I'm going to get a whole new intake.
Sure.
How do you pour into them knowing that that's just around the corner?
Yeah, it's one of the challenges. It's a constant tension. Even now, I try to stay in contact with guys that have moved on.
It's awesome.
And not just the guys that have moved on that are doing big things playing college football. A lot of them are doing big things that have nothing to do with football. And
Right.
So there's a constant tension to a focus. Last night I was at our feeder middle school's football game. So there's the ones that aren't even here yet.
Yeah.
And then I've got the present with the guys I have now, the 110 kids we have now. So there's a constant tension there. In the midst of that, you're balancing your personal life and your family. So I just think you have to be present in what's going on. You have to pour everything you can, and you have to have confidence and conviction, and you have to ask for leading and how you invest that time, invest those efforts, invest that energy, invest, your resource, which is your time and energy, that you have to give. And in addition to the success stories, there's also a lot of disappointment.
Yeah.
And I don't say that in a negative sense. I say that just in an acknowledgement.
Yeah.
And that's one thing when I became a head coach, Jenna, even on her blog, she periodically touches base on our family and what's going on with football.
Yeah.
She wrote an entire post about our family's ability to learn to deal with that and navigate that.
That's
because
awesome.
anytime, and I'm sure you can identify, anytime you're involved with such a large group of people, there are going to be things that just blindside you and set you back.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're not setbacks. We just don't see that at the time, but they can really hurt you deeply because you care about people.
Yeah.
And learning to navigate that, and you don't become calloused. That's not, I don't want to ever become calloused, but we definitely as a family have learned to at least understand, anticipate, and then navigate those things better. So that's a big part of it as well. In our world, there are a lot of emotions tied. You're dealing with children. They're the most important thing on the planet to their parents. as they should be. I get that. So there's a lot of strings attached, a lot of connection, a lot of emotion, and really disappointing things can take place. The lowest of lows, the highest of highs.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than having a family that genuinely appreciates what they've seen take place in their son over 4 years.
Yeah.
That's the best. It truly is the best. Those are the things that stay with you, that last. There's nothing harder when you have something maybe you've messed up, or something where maybe you didn't, but it's just hasn't gone well.
Yeah.
And there's a broken relationship, or somebody makes a decision that puts them in a bunch of whatever that might be. So there's just people, work is messy, relationships are messy. So I don't know if that really answered your question.
No, it's good.
But our family navigates that together, and we've learned how to do it, I think, a little bit better.
Yeah, it's good. And that kind of leads me into what I wanted to kind of hit on next was like, you're a high profile coach here in town. Like you said, 110 in the program, plus all the families around that. It's a lot going on. You got a busy, how do you stay? I want to eventually talk about healthy team culture and how you get there, but that always starts with you and your family and your world. Like, how do you manage your own healthy rhythms of rest? Talk to me about that. Like, just not getting burned out. I'm conscious there might be people watching this or catch this at some point. They're just like, I do want to go into sport. I want to become a coach to athletes. So that might be very specific to them, but I just think in any kind of high profile job, you could be the CEO of a company, you could do what Jenna does, you could do what I do, but I'm interested from your perspective, how do you stay healthy? And I'm sure you've had in 19 years, some times where you've gone against the line and maybe almost burned out. Can you share any wisdom with us?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I've been there. I've been there where I've run myself down, been there where I can't sleep, especially early on as a head coach. Fortunately, I've got a very strong person that's my life partner, who is not afraid to say, I see this, and let me help you.
Yeah.
Which I so greatly appreciate with Jenna. I've got some other people that are mentors of mine that I can talk to and say, this is what I'm struggling with. And they can give me really good, sound, godly advice. But yeah, I've ridden that roller coaster. I think I'm in a healthier place now than probably I have been, as experience teaches you, and you seek wisdom and you grow in that. One thing that helps us is that we do it together. So we're together a lot.
That's good.
Couldn't be a bipartisan effort. Couldn't be a two-part effort. Just wouldn't work. One thing strictly from a performance and from a competitive standpoint that I think I've really tried to absorb and appreciate and really make a part of everything that we do is that oftentimes simple is best. Simple is best. Simple structures, simple procedures, simple protocols. And there's a lot of reasons why. And in a competitive realm, a lot of people won't do simple. They think it's got to be more. Simple is generally more easily fixable. It's usually more efficient. It makes things black and white. Execution's laid bare. So when you see the problem, this is the problem, let's address it. So as I've learned that from a competitive standpoint, as a coach, as a teacher, that's really helped me cut out fluff of time. And, then obviously from a practical sense, familiarity with online documents, familiarity with being able to have work done where we're not all in the same place has helped over the last few years. We've now got a rhythm where Sundays after church is really a quiet time for us. And I know that's the case for a lot of people. It wasn't always the case. I used to be busy all through Sunday. Church was a break.
Wow.
Yeah, and it just wasn't wise. It's not sustainable. It's not biblical. From every avenue, it's not good.
Yeah.
So we've got that rhythm, and my staff knows if you reach out to me with questions about our upcoming game or whatever it might be on Sunday afternoon, I'm very likely to not reply.
Yeah.
If I do, it might be the next morning early or whatever that might be. We've set some boundaries.
That's good.
Set some boundaries with our phones, and so I would say much healthier now than it's been. We're by no means there. Would love to get into a rhythm more like what I've heard you preach about and talk about, of a full 24-hour period.
Yeah.
We're not there, but we've put a lot of effort into it, and I think our family's in the healthiest place we've been since I've been a head coach.
Yeah, that's so good. I just think you can't do without that time. It's good to hear you say that. Even the boundaries thing, I think, is huge. Something that I've been experimenting with lately is, I talked about it in church, but like a phone free day or like a device free day. We're starting to brand it a little bit with the kids. So we're calling it screen free Sabbath.
Nice.
And so Saturdays is like no screen Sabbath or whatever. And so the kids just know no phones, no TV, whatever. But something that I've been experimenting with, which has been really cool, is I've been figuring out ways that I can leave my phone at home and just go for the whole day. Or if I'm going to go somewhere, I'll tell Jill. And the only person that really on those days I need to communicate with is her. So as long as I kind of set that up with her, and you know what I found? It's the most freeing thing. There's this initial like tension for the first few hours, the first day you do it, where you just like, it's like this weird security thing where you just go, man, what if I get a text, or what if there's an emergency, which is all just like second nature muscle memory stuff. But what I found is I found this new freedom, in my spirit. I'm just like, this is incredible. As we do, I'm starting to think about taking the pendulum too far out. I'm thinking about getting a burner phone, like going off altogether and, stuff like that. But I think you have to. I think there's no way to do what we do in leadership without some kind of ring-fenced time of rest and, replenishment. And
it's healthy too to know that the world will still go on without you being attentive to every single need and emergency.
Yeah.
It's good to know that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. All right. So talk to me about the team. How do you then, now that you've kind of worked out your world, I'd just be interested from an athlete perspective and the guys that you manage and the program you run, how does that kind of find its way into keeping a team healthy? Is there anything you can share with us that you do, or practices you have? I know you guys do like get-togethers and stuff like that.
Oh, sure.
To create that family atmosphere.
Absolutely.
But
yeah, and it's appropriate that we're talking about this today because this is a big week, and I'll talk about a tradition that we have that we'll be taking care of on Friday. But yeah, I mean, just last week we had an offensive side of the ball dinner on Thursday after practice. We had a defensive side of the ball dinner on Tuesday after practice that some parents had put on, and we do a lot of things outside of football. I really enjoy our kids. We've got amazing kids. And I'd be lying if I said there's not an ebb and flow to that. Some groups are easier than others. Right now we've got a group that's remarkably easy, and they're so fun to be around. So that's I look at that now as not something I deserve. I look at it as a blessing. It's a lot of fun. So we do those things. Out of season, we do a lot of different volunteer opportunities that are just great. It's just so much fun to be around the guys when I'm not demanding something in a football sense, because that can get tiresome. So it's fun to just enjoy them. Have them over to Jenna and I host different pockets of the kids, all the time at our house, and we do a lot of those things. It's a lot of fun. We want them to develop a civic mindedness, a sense of healthy obligation towards their community, of understanding you're a part of this, and it's actually going to bless you to get involved with something that's outside of you and contribute to something else. It's tough when you're a 16, 17, 18-year-old boy. We've all been there, or you and I have been there, and it's tough to think outside of yourself.
Yeah.
And, we take very seriously our school community and the impact that our football team can have on our school community, and all of those things. So, and then aside from that, we're with them the entire year. It's not just a football thing. So we have them all in a weightlifting class, myself and another one of our coaches. And truthfully, that's where the culture is probably the most greatly established.
Okay.
Because we're with them every day.
In the classroom.
Yeah. So in the weight room and just procedures and why we do things and timeliness and focus and intense effort, and like an intense effort in the right way. Like if we're going to do something, let's do this the right way. Let's really do it. We're not just here to spend 45 minutes today. Don't do anything that way. It's not,
That's good.
So we're with them all year, and I'm really fortunate. Coach Lippo, who is in our weight room, he has a gift for standards and things being done the right way, because my bandwidth will run out. I'm in the hallways. I'm constantly, imploring our young men to uphold our standards of whatever that looks like in our hallways, and the way we're treating people, being on time, not, just let's. It's good to be different, guys. Let's not hang out till the bell rang because that's what everybody else does.
Right.
Do that in football. do that with the stuff in the community. But when they come in that weight room, I know I can lean on him, which really helps me because it gets exhausting to hold that line. But these young men need it. They need high standards.
Yeah.
And so anyways, it's everything in general, not one thing in specific. Everything they do matters. And we're trying to get that across to them. This week, later on, we always do this before what could potentially be our last game. So we're now in the playoffs, single elimination. So our next game could be our last. We do something called burning of the shoes. That's a tradition that Coach Wiles began. I was a player at St. Augustine High School when he began it. And it's really meaningful. Our seniors, we'll create a fire. We'll burn old cleats, whatever.
Yeah.
The kids, some of them will bring their old cleats and they'll throw them on the fire. It's pretty cool. That's awesome. Each senior will have an opportunity to address his teammates, address his coaches. And it's always, you never know what you're going to get. Some years it's not emotional. Some years it's quick and to the point. And you'll have 15, 20 kids go through and you're like, okay. Yeah. Some years it'll be an hour and a half long. There'll be tears. There'll be, so it's always interesting to see just kind of where God takes that and what's on these young men's hearts. So we'll be doing that Friday since we're playing on Saturday. And I always look forward to that. It's really meaningful. You really want to hear from them. They hear so much from us. It's pretty cool. So that's one tradition that's super meaningful in our program. And, so meaningful that my first year I was a head coach, we didn't do it because it means something. And my first year as a head coach, I didn't think we were in a place to appreciate it.
Oh, wow.
But we've done it every year since. So I'm looking forward to that on Friday.
It's amazing. How about as a head coach, bringing your faith into the game? How does that look for you? Like practically, like conversationally, how does it happen? How do you bring your faith into the team environment? Yeah, well, there is a healthy amount of tension working in the public school system and bringing your faith in. You're always mindful of that tension as a believer. And I feel like as a believer, I'm learning how to best navigate that tension of operating in an environment that maybe doesn't always operate under the authority of Jesus. Yeah. And operating in my way under Jesus. And when I say in my way, in my classroom with my players, and they know that, and they know that we talk about serving our players' hearts before we serve their talents. It's not about their performance because they're not all built the same. Yeah. And I believe that's how Jesus would want us to lead this football program. That's how God would have us do it, to serve them. So I am always going to lead in our football program, lead in my classroom with the way that God's called me to lead. So I don't view my workplace different than anybody else's. Everybody probably to some degree feels that tension because we're operating in a secular world. Absolutely. Yeah. So that doesn't make me any different in terms of that. We have a lot of prayer. We have a lot of counseling with these young men. That's great. We have a mentor who is a de facto chaplain who is there again to serve their hearts and to point them to Jesus. I ask for a lot of forgiveness. I can tell you that because in a competitive environment, the main thing, which is serving God and serving others, sometimes falls to third after winning and after getting this kid to do what he's supposed to do because that's what we need him to do. Yeah. Wow. And that's just me being honest. Yeah. And so I ask for a lot of forgiveness. I say sorry a lot. And that's awesome. It's so easy to compartmentalize a young man into what he can do to follow the standards you've said he's going to adhere to and to be productive for our team, to be successful, and to lose sight of serving his heart. And that's an everyday tension. And I think that's just the reality of it. Yeah. I'll never have it perfect. I don't think anybody has it down perfect. Yeah. But our kids know that when I come to them with, guys, that wasn't the right way to handle that. I'm not serving your heart with the way that I address that. Yeah. They know where that's coming from, and they know it's because I serve Jesus first. And then, wins and losses need to be much further down that. That's awesome. That order. Do you guys pray before each game? Oh yeah, before, after, meals, in between, every practice. Absolutely. It's a centering thing for us. Yeah. And I reference scripture quite often. And I'm always asking God to bring it to my mind when appropriate. And there's so much scripture related to humility, related to how we treat one another, related to working hard and doing things the right way. There's so much scripture related to that it's so easy. And it's incumbent upon me as a follower of Christ to be continually intaking that scripture so that it is there for me. Yeah. So that I'm allowing the Holy Spirit
to bring it out through me to these young men, because truth is truth, and God's the author of truth.
Yeah.
And, that has to be the guiding light for how we're interacting with these kids.
Yeah, it's that daily bread. Hey, you got to be getting it every day to give it.
Absolutely.
It's so good. All right, man. I need to know, and you don't have to name names, but you got to talk to me about some success stories.
Sure.
Like, what's the what have you seen happen? Like, again, you don't have to name names,
Sure.
but like, tell me some success stories you've had as a coach that fire you up.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say when I was starting out as a head coach, taking over a program that had not had any success, and honestly, it had a lot of difficulty and heartbreak up in the Mandarin area. That's a really proud community. They really support that public school. It's their school. It's Mandarin High School.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing that community and those young men have a genuine appreciation for things that maybe I just thought were normal working under Coach Wiles. And that was just really fulfilling, from the sense of like, man, this is really impacting these people. Like, they really appreciate it. They really have gratitude. And the kids were so receptive to everything that we were about. And everything from my biblical worldview, from my position as first a servant of Jesus, but then a servant of you guys as the person that's in authority over you.
Mm-hmm.
And just seeing those kids change. I keep in touch with a lot of those kids. And it's been, that was 2013, 14, 15, and still communicate with them.
Wow.
So that whole experience was a high, which had some really lows. It was really hard.
Mm-hmm.
I felt very weak many times during that experience. And, but that whole experience was a high and was really amazing. And then, back at St. Augustine, we've had so many individual success stories of young men who come from situations where the odds are really stacked against them.
Yep.
And they see an avenue to develop life skills, to maybe open some doors to some opportunities, and they're able to change the trajectory of their family's line.
Wow.
And that's so fulfilling. And we've had that happen multiple times. We have a success story right now on our team of a young man that my wife and I had really tried to take under our wing and pour a lot into, who had, he left our program, made a decision to go to a different place, go to a different school. And that hurts. That's very hard.
Yeah.
When those things happen, but they're still hard. And he's actually now back with us as a senior, and has had some rock bottom moments, but he's a completely different person.
Wow.
And and he's vocalized to me his appreciation for the adults in our program, for what they mean to him, for how we've treated him, and what we've tried to pour into him. And so those are the things that really those are the things that mean the most.
Yeah.
We have a coach on our staff who, he played at the highest level, played in the NFL, played at the University of Florida. He's been an All-American. He won 2 national championships. And I never hear him talk about those games.
Yeah.
It's not what he talks about.
Yeah.
He talks about when he was in high school at St. Augustine High School, the relationships he has. He talks about the relationships he has from the guys he played with at Florida. He doesn't talk about games. Yeah. So those impactful relationships are the things that are the highs. And we've had our fair share of positive ones and success stories that really keep you going.
That's awesome. I love that you almost immediately went to success off the field, because I think that's such a big part of what you do. People can look at statistics. People look at like, oh, well, I had this many athletes go to this level after they left me. But, I think true leadership is the rounded measure of like, no, these lives changed, and that's amazing. And so, man, I'm so grateful for you and your whole family. I'm so grateful that we have you in that seat coaching our football team here and doing such an amazing job. And thank you for your presence. Thank you for your commitment. I know you love this community. You were born and raised here, just like my wife was, and just grateful that people like you are out there doing what you do, because that tension is real. Sometimes we don't feel it necessarily inside the 4 walls of the church, because this is the church, but I've definitely felt it working outside of church and in the Wall Street world and stuff like that. But it just always fires me up when I talk to believers that are doing something significant out in the world, like you say, holding the line.
That's right.
Like being a believer is not always an easy thing, especially when you're in a public situation like you are. So thank you for everything you do.
Well, we're super grateful, and we feel honored to be in that role. My whole family, super grateful for you and Joe. We love you guys. Super grateful for this church and how that pours into us and enables us to go out into to our worlds and ask God to give us what we need to work through us and do what he's called us to do.
Awesome. We love you guys. Appreciate you coming on. And I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, bro.